introduce myself. I'm Sanjay Kasat. I work in Microsoft as Senior Program Manager in Forms Pro team. So Forms Pro is basically a survey product that we recently GA'd in on 1st of July. So it's generally available now. And I'm very eager to discuss the features and the scenarios it solves with you guys. So I will begin with sharing my screen. Please tell me when you can see that.
We have it. We see customer satisfaction survey. Yep.
Yeah, great. Let me. Yeah. So, how many of you are aware of Microsoft Forms?
Most everybody.
Most of the people on the road.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Ah,
We got it.
okay, great. So, unfortunately, I couldn't be there. So, generally, I start my presentation with a generic question that how many of the attendees have work with a team or support a customer who wants to collect feedback from their customers or employees to basically enhance or optimize their business flow. And the uh, responses are always resoundingly yes, that they do have customer, because it's such a ubiquitous scenario to collect feedback, meaningful feedback from their customers or employees to improve their business processes. So this is the scenario that we are targeting with Microsoft Forms Pro. So this is what I plan to do now. I just will start with what actually is Microsoft Forms Pro and just give you a quick demo, and then we'll close with some summary and any questions that you have. Although summary is at the end, but any question you have during the demo or during the presentation, please feel free to ask. I want to keep it as informal as possible.
One thing before you dive in, are you going to cover
Sure.
the differentiation between standard forms and Forms Pro or basic forms?
Yes. So as part of the demo, I will highlight the features that are exclusive to Forms Pro and also talk about what are the different scenarios that is being targeted by Forms Pro and not really by Forms. We'll cover that.
Great.
So I think this slide will basically show you the roadmap or the backstory that we have for Forms Pro. So this is what the journey of Microsoft Forms was, that it was launched for EDU in September 2017. It GA'd, became generally available on April 2018, and gradually with October release and January 2019 release, where it was available for government cloud as well. We have seen that a lot of great adoption with Microsoft Forms, but it's basically positioned as compete with Google Forms, where we are targeting scenarios which are a single point in time, a simple feedback collection mechanism for information workers to easily set up surveys and get running. Uh, but there was a whole business scenario where enterprises, for their own business processes, they want to create surveys that is integrated directly with their business data and business processes. So for that, we started working on Forms Pro, which we did a public preview of it on March. And this 1st of July this year, we actually Forms Pro became generally available. So let's just go with what are we solving what with specifically with Forms Pro. So while Forms was very good in collecting generic feedback data, there were certain business challenges that were unique for enterprise survey solutions. So one was that people found it very hard to send surveys and analyze the data. So there was no quick, because in enterprise surveys, they want to automate sending the survey because the volume is so high that it's not possible to send surveys manually. So we targeted that as one of the business challenges that we will try to address. The other is that when the survey responses come back, they reside separately from the other data that the enterprises have. So they don't talk to each other. So for example, a customer's data would be in a CRM system, but the survey responses are in a separate system altogether, and they don't readily talk to each other, which basically leads to less meaningful insights. So that's what that was the third business challenge that we try to solve. That how do we combine the business data and the survey data together to give much more meaningful insights to the customers. So if you look at Microsoft Forms Pro, we built on top of Office Forms itself. So the UI, if you have worked on Office Forms, is pretty easy to use, simple, simplified surveys, and it provides integration with other Office applications like Excel, SharePoint, PowerPoint, Teams, Sway, etc. But with Forms Pro, what we have added is we have added integration with Dynamics product as well. So we have provided first class integration with Dynamics 365, first party integration with Microsoft Flow or with Power BI and Power Apps. So this and all of this is powered by the backend of a common data service or the database that is Dynamics 365 is built on. So this is where we have started to work on integration with the business processes and business data and bringing the survey responses data back to uh, bringing back the survey response data and in integration with the business data. So that's where we are working on to providing the seamless integration with these business tools and working on providing you real-time insights. So it's not just a basic data collection. We run insights on top of it to cover any meaningful patterns that we observe and highlighting it to our customers. So let me quickly jump to the demo to show you how these things, although work sounds good theoretically, how they are working in practice right now. So I will be giving demo in basically three parts. First, covering the survey lifecycle, and then talking about how it is integrating with the business data, and third part would be how the real-time insights kick into picture. So let me start with how the end-to-end survey lifecycle works with Forms Pro. So if you have worked with Microsoft Forms, so this is basically the same simplified layout structure that Office Forms also has, but you can see that there is something new if you have Forms Pro, which is a new Pro survey. So let me start by creating a survey. So this is the basic survey structure. Let me start by giving it a name. So once you add a name to a survey, let me start by asking quick few questions. So it is automatically suggesting me certain questions that are based on the survey name itself. So let me pick a few questions directly here from here to add it. Yeah. So this feature is will help me to directly easily create the surveys. So these are the different question types that are available for me to be able to create different type of surveys to collect the relevant information that I want. I can also have this new thing called section, which basically helps me to create a multi-page survey. So if my survey is too long, I can basically create page breaks in between. So that is also supported. Now this what you have seen till now is also supported in Office Forms. So what's the new different thing that we are bringing? One of the features, for example, is advanced branching. So a lot of time the surveys are too long, but you don't want to show all the questions to all the respondents because they may not be relevant. All the questions may not be relevant to that particular respondent. So for example, let's take a case like this survey. Maybe I just want to ask suggestions from people who are giving me low rating. So if that's the scenario, I will make the default visibility of this question as false. So this question will not be visible by default, but I can now create branching rules. So let me just start with a rule. Let me give it a name. So I can add conditions like, okay, if this response was, let's say, less than 7, my NPS question was less than 7, then if it is true, then I want to, let's say, show this particular question, which was do you have any suggestions? Or else I want to hide it. So you can see this is not the only action that is supported. You can navigate to, let's say, for example, end of a survey or to a different survey or to a particular question in the survey that is further along the line, or can be redirected to a different URL altogether. So all these scenarios are possible in Forms Pro. So this is again one of the features that is not there in Office Forms, but is there in Forms Pro. Let me just quickly preview the survey. You can see that I can't see the last question now, but if I answer 5, this questions become visible. I can again see a preview of the same thing in mobile as well. I can also yeah.
The scale is 0 to 10 on this example. Can you pick, say, 1 to 4 or 1 to 8 or 1 to 9, or is it always 0 to 10? And the other reason I ask that is that this has 11 options. And I taught a long time ago in survey world, that's that way, by somebody who spent all their time on surveys professionally, that you really don't want to have an odd number of answers.
Right.
You want to force people to say, do I like it a little more or a little less? So a scale of 1 to 4 comes to mind instantly.
Right. So this, for example, is an NPS question type here, which is standard scale from 0 to 10. But for your scenario, you can choose a rating question type, and then you can decide what level you want to show. So for example, if you just want to show 4 levels and put it as number, it is possible. So you can define different type of scales that you want, or you can have it even like a radio button question where you have like very like the one at the top, from extremely dissatisfied to somewhat dissatisfied. So if you don't want, for example, if you don't want an odd number, you can just let's say just delete the middle one. So we provide a lot of flexibility here to decide, for you to decide what type of questions is appropriate for you. Okay. So let's just, so this is again the survey design part, but you have to, so enterprise wants the survey to basically match the look and feel of their product. So we provide some out of the box way for you to go and customize these things. But of course, we provide a custom way as well. So for example, if you want to have a background image that is particular to you, you can upload it, or in my case, I will just directly take it from the web itself. So you can change the background image, you can change the theme color here. So all those things are possible. You can even add a logo to the survey. So let me pick a logo. Click on that. That's done as well. So this is how I can design my survey. So this is quite similar to again what Microsoft Forms already support. The real distinguishing starts when I start to move to the next stage, which is sending the survey. So unlike Forms, we support like multiple channels through which you can send the survey across. Let's just jump to the first one, which is email. So in Forms Pro, we are providing an inbuilt mechanism for you to send the survey emails directly from here. So when you want to distribute a survey, typically you first decide whom you want to send the survey to. So this 2 column that you see here is integrated with your Dynamics backend as well as your Active Directory. So for example, if I want to choose a particular user, so let's say I have a DL called my sales team. I want to send the survey to my sales team, and I have a Active Director DL which has like awesome sales team. I can just pick from here and send survey to them directly from here. So those and this is also connected to my Dynamics 365. So yeah, if I have a contacts in my Dynamics 365, I can directly send them survey from here itself instead of having to jump to a different system. So now that, and of course, I can import recipient from Excel file as well. So if you have your list of recipient in an Excel file, you can just upload directly from here. That's supported as well. Now, once I have figured out whom I want to send it to, let me jump to a particular, let's say I want to choose an email, design an email on what particular email to send. So most of the customers that I have worked with, they generally don't design emails here. They will just delete it, and they have their own a different team which basically designs the email that we want to send. Let me just copy paste it. It's as simple as that. You can simply just copy paste uh, a particular email, for example, from a different source. You can design it, of course, from here as well, but even this is supported.
How do you make dynamic links for the individual?
Yes, yes. So for example, right, if you look at the two column, I have selected a DL, but that doesn't mean that the whole DL will be sent a particular survey. What would happen is this DL will get deconstructed, and each member of this directory will receive their own surveys. And if you see here, I have this begin survey placeholder. I can insert. Let me, sorry.
Sorry, Sanjay, I think what I meant is you have in this email here, Lydia Holloway. I assume you have a method of making that be a dynamic.
Yes, yes,
field.
I have,
Okay.
I have. Yeah, so let's just jump. Let's do this because yeah, I agree. Not everybody would be named Lydia Holloway. So what I can do is that I can personalize it, and I can insert first name and last name. So I can insert, let's say, first name and last name, and it will pick the first name and last name as defined in my Active Directory or in my dynamics, depending on what contact you select here, and it will be replaced in runtime with the first name and last name. So that's supported. What we also support is, for example, this begin survey, right? I will can insert a survey link directly here. And what is actually inserted here is not the survey link, but rather a placeholder. So what it means is that when I send survey across to all the recipients, each recipient will receive their own personalized survey URL, which is unique to that person. And this enables us to track basically who has responded to that particular email. Uh, because we don't want users to go and sign in before responding to the survey, because getting survey response is difficult as it is. So we don't want to burden the responders further. What we do is that we send personalized links so that when the responses come back, we know which particular person has responded to you.
Sanjay, is that strictly a pro thing, or is that also with the regular forms?
This is particular to Flow. So particular to Forms Pro. So Office Forms do not allow you to be able to track external customers or external users. This whole screen that you are seeing is not in Forms Pro at all, in Forms Base at all. It's only in Forms Pro.
Force people to log in.
How
You can't have like an
anonymous surveys work?
Sorry?
How would an anonymous survey work?
Anonymous survey would work. Let me show you that. So we have settings here where you can define what you want. So you can choose that it's an external survey, but you can choose I don't want to record me. So in that case, when the responses come back to you, we don't associate the responses with the personalized URLs.
So we still get an idea of percent of people that responded, but not necessarily who responded.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So that was like one mechanism of sending the survey flow. Let me just reserve it for the next part of the demo. Let's now go to the embed mode. So this is where, for example, if you have a portal or somewhere where you want to collect information or a feedback from the survey. For example, if you have a site where you want to collect leads that can help your sales team, you want to maybe embed this particular survey or form in your web pages. So what forms provide is basically a simple URL that you can embed in an iframe. What we have done is that we have enhanced this capability. So we provide certain out of the box ways where you can through which you can embed the survey. So for example, you can embed the survey inline, or you can configure the survey such that it comes as a pop-up based on certain events that you define in your website. Or it can be a button. So it can be a static button on your web page called feedback. User clicks on it, a survey comes up, and as similar to like a chat window, and he responds here. So that's supported. So these are some out of the box display modes that we support, but that's not all. A lot of time when you are in a website, just collecting the information is not enough. You want to capture the information, for example, what the user was doing before he has provided you this information. So for that, what we allow is that you can maybe define custom parameters. So for example, you can define, let's say, what the title of the page the user was on, and you can just add this parameter. And when you generate the code which you want, which you have to then embed on your website, it will take input the page title, which you can pass through. Whatever information or the context parameters that you pass through here will be stored as part of the survey responses as well. So it will help you in analysis. For example, if you just want to know for which particular web page the feedback was good, or for which particular web page the feedback was bad, you can do all sort of analysis using these custom parameters.
Is that anything that the web browser has access to?
Yes.
Parameters?
Yes, so basically what would happen is that this script that is generated, it takes this page title, for example, that I've written here as an input. So when you embed this particular control in your web page, you can pass all the possible information that you have in the context of your website. So it can be page title, or it can be what is the logged in username or email address, for example. You can pass all of them. So this is another interesting mode of how you can distribute the survey. The other two, link and QR code, are fairly simple. I'm not going to spend much time here. So this was about sending the survey, distributing the survey. Now what happens when the responses started flowing in? So let me jump to a survey that already has some responses. So for example, this is my customer satisfaction survey. So this is my overview dashboard, so I can show you, okay, how many people I have sent the invite to, how many responses were received, what's my average NPS, and what's the sentiment. The sentiment is basically calculated from the verbatim text responses. So for example, if your survey has a question like provide your feedback, which is an open text type question, what we do is that we run these questions through our cognitive services and determine and try to guess what the response or sentiment of the user is. For example, it's positive, negative, or sort of neutral. So we calculate that. This feature, let me just clarify, is only available right now for English language. We have it in pipeline to expand it to other languages, but it's only available for English for right now. So this, and below that you will also see certain insights that we have. So for example, if there is any standard or interesting pattern that we have observed, we will choose that. So for example, let me check what kind of insights are there. So I can see that, okay, people who answered, who are promoters in question 3, which is my NPS question, 94% are responding high in a particular question. So here I can see any interesting correlation pattern or anything that I can observe. I can also see the sentiment insights. For example, how my sentiment is varying on a scale from -1 to +1. And also we do something called key phrase extraction. So based on the verbatim responses of your responders, we will calculate which particular phrases were spoken much more frequently, and we'll try to plot it in a word cloud. So we can show you that, okay, people who are speaking positive about you, giving feedback, what is their comments like, and what are the people giving you negative feedback, what are their comments like. So that's supported as well. Now this was about insights, But let's say if you want to go deep and see what each particular question, how the responses was. So for each question, we have like different charts depending on the question type. So for example, in this survey, the first question was rating, rate between 1 to 5 star. So we provide you distribution of the rating, what's the average rating. For radio button type questions, it was a pie chart. For NPS question, we show the distribution between promoters and detractors and what was the NPS score. For text question, we do again the key phrase extraction and show you, okay, what are the people talking about, instead of having you go and look into each verbatim responses. Having said that, that is still possible. So if you, sorry, it's not, yeah. Was there a question?
No.
Okay. And you can of course go to like invitations and see how many people have responded, how many invites were just sent but not responded, how many invitations were failed because let's say the email address was incorrect or it bounced for some other reason. So all this analytics also you will see here. Same goes for responses. You can see response chart, like what was the average time people took to complete your survey, what's the response ratio, what's the trend of responses, what is the distribution of NPS, for example. And then you can of course go and open a particular survey to see, okay, which for this particular response, what was the response looking like. That's supported as well. So this was in short for a typical survey. That is what the end-to-end life cycle looks like. So basically what we meant was that how you can quickly create the survey, how we can help you using AI to create a survey by suggesting you multiple questions, how you can customize the survey better by advanced branching and skip logic, and how you can brand your survey. But that's again a simple, what you see here is a good standalone survey solution. But again, one of the business problem that we are solving is how does it integrate with my business data? So in this example, for example, let's just consider a case where you run a customer service or call center and you want to collect feedback about your customer service. So how do you go about that? Because what you want essentially is that every time a case is resolved, let's say in Dynamics, you want to send a survey, and now that can't be done manually, right? Because every day thousands of cases are getting resolved, so nobody's going to sit and send survey one by one. So there has to be automation involved here. So how do we solve this particular scenario with Forms Pro? This is again what I'm going to demo is exclusive only to Forms Pro and not present in Forms at all. So for this, let me jump to another survey. Yeah, let's just jump to this survey. So I've just created this survey where I am gathering customer information regarding, okay, how satisfied are you with our product? How likely are you to recommend us? And then asking additional question. One unique thing, if you look at it, I have a placeholder here called product. So I can define custom placeholders and place it within the survey. And these are going to be replaced in runtime. So when end user receives this survey, this product will be replaced by the product that a customer has actually bought. So those things are possible here as well. So let me show you how. So when I go to, for example, send survey, and I choose another channel called Microsoft Flow. If you are aware of Microsoft Flow, this is you can think of it as like a workflow engine, which is workflow as a service. So you provide certain triggers, and based on the trigger, certain actions take place. So with Forms Pro, you can configure something like that. So for example, if I go here, I can select the email template that I want to show, or that I want to send to the survey, and then I can go and click on configure flow. So here, let's just load. Yeah. So we have already shipped a few flows that you can pick from as template, but you can of course create it from directly from scratch. For example, you can see here, so it's not just restricted to Dynamics. You can have any third-party product integrations. For example, there's a template with Salesforce as well. So when some event happen in Salesforce, how do you send the survey? Let me pick this case where I'm sending a survey when a case is resolved in Dynamics 365. I already have this flow created. So let me just jump to this. So here what I am doing is that whenever a case for example, is updated and its status is resolved, which is equal to 5, that's resolved in Dynamics language. And I can choose that based on certain conditions, I can choose to send this survey. So I pick the email address that is associated with the case. I choose the survey. I choose the email template I want to send. And then I associate this particular survey with the particular case in Dynamics. I choose the first name, last name of the responder, and I also choose product. For example, I added product as a custom field or custom parameter in my survey. It will automatically appear in Flow. And I basically have passed the name of the product in here. So whenever a case is going to get resolved in Dynamics, this is going to get triggered, and I'm going to automatically see a survey invitation being sent to the customer. So let me just quickly demo how this will work end to end. This, for example, is a case in Dynamics. Let me just resolve this case. Okay. Let me. So this is, if you're aware of Dynamics 365, this is the Dynamics 365 CRM database where I'm opening a case and then resolving it. So what it will do is that it will send a trigger to Flow and will basically then send a survey which I specified in my Flow, and choose the particular email template and then send this to the customer that is specified here called Edel. So that is what is happening in the backend. It will take maybe a couple of minutes. Okay, so you see that the survey invite has already been sent to Linda. Let me just open this record to show you more details. So it will have information like whom it was sent to, what was it regarding, for example, this case, and you can see the URL as well. Let me just copy this URL. The customer, of course, will receive but a nice email with this URL there. And you can see here the product that placeholder I had in my survey is replaced by the product that this case was regarding. And then I can, of course, send the response. And then submit. And this response will also be start to show within Dynamics in conjunction with this case. So that basically what is happening right now is your business data is in Dynamics. Now your survey data is also in Dynamics. So if you have a Dynamics customer, then it's a win-win because both survey data and your customer data is in one place. But Dynamics is just one of the triggers that you have here. You can have any third-party trigger, like if you have data in SharePoint and certain events happen in SharePoint, and based on that you want to send the survey, you can configure that using Flow. If you have a scenario where, for example, you have a SQL database where you create records, and based on those records you want to send a survey across, you can do that. So all those scenarios are possible through integration with Flow.
Quick question.
Yeah.
The Flow integration with surveys, is that only Flow to Forms Pro, or
No.
does that work with Forms regular?
You can do it with regular forms.
With regular forms, what works is that the follow-up action. So when a response come back, you can work with regular forms to basically take a follow-up action when the response is coming back. But this particular action where I showed to send the survey, this is exclusive to Forms Pro because Forms does not support an inbuilt email, so they do not have mechanism in Forms to send a survey based on a trigger. So that is exclusive to Forms Pro.
Although you could do it from a SharePoint front end, right? If you triggered something in SharePoint, you could then send the form.
Yes, you can do that, but in that case, there's no personalized URL still created. So what would effectively happen is that it's just an anonymous email survey that you send. But if you want to track external customer and while automation, that is available only in Forms Pro.
We do this to grab forms data and throw them in SharePoint lists all the time so that we can track, right? And
Yes.
Also, it works really well to take your forms data into Planner or into many other kind of tools to help kind of work it once you have it.
Right, that works perfectly fine with Forms. So when you can take the data out of Forms using Flow, when for example, when a response is received, do certain actions. For example, taking the responses and putting it into Flow or Planner or in SharePoint, for example, that works perfectly fine. That is available both in Forms and Forms Pro. Yes. But to send the survey on a business event, sending part of a survey, that is specific to Forms Pro.
Just out of curiosity, for the personalized scenes that Forms Pro can do, how do you prevent someone from just forwarding the email to somebody else so that you have like 6 people responding on the personalized?
Yeah, so you have, for example, yes, it's not like completely locked down because again, we can't have an external customer logged into Forms Pro because they would not be part of your org, so they won't have like username and password, for example. But to prevent abuse, what you can do is that we have this restriction where you can say only one response per URL. So
Okay.
even if you forward to 6%, 6% won't be able to respond to it. Okay. Let me jump to the last part of my demo, which is Power BI template. So you can see now the survey responses are there, and the dashboard that I went through. It's good. But it's again standalone survey analysis data. There is no business insights that is coming out of that. So for that, we have, because all the data is in Dynamics or common data service, which has a Forms Pro, which has a Power BI connector present by default, you can create different dashboards like this, for example, where because all my survey data and case data is together, I can create a dashboard like this, where I can see, okay, what's the how many invites was sent, how many responses received, what's the NPS positive. I can see the word cloud, I can see my NPS trend. That's all well and good. That was, you were able to see all this data point in Forms Pro as well. But what you can do here, for example, is you can now check based on case priority, for example, how my NPS is varying. Let me, sorry, let's wrong chart. Yeah, this is the right one. So for example, I can then, based on case priority, now I can see how my NPS is varying because all my survey responses are in conjunction with my case data. So you can see, okay, here, for example, for cases with high priority, my NPS is actually low. So if you just analyze survey data in isolation, you won't be able to get insights like this. So for example, I can check, okay, what type of cases, what is the NPS, how it is varying based on type of cases. So I can see, okay, for requests, my NPS is pretty high, but for problem and questions, maybe my NPS is not that high. So I may need to be working on this. Also based on case origin, for example, I can see, okay, the case that were originating from Facebook, my NPS is actually low, but those on Twitter, my NPS is high. So maybe I need to work on it. And I can click on, let's say, Facebook here to see what the people were speaking for example, for case originating in Facebook. They are saying, okay, they are not happy with the product. And also there's a lot of waiting time. So maybe I need to improve that to improve my NPS. That's not all. One of the example for this particular scenario, since I am running a call center, one of my chief scenario is to check how my agents are doing. So since agents data would also be there in Dynamics, so we know for each case who owns that particular case or who was working on case. So I can create charts like, okay, for this particular agent, my NPS I received is 100. And for these agents, maybe they're not performing that well because their NPS is low. So I can determine which agents are working fine and which are not. And I can then also select a particular agent and see, okay, what are the comments that are received for this particular agent. So all these things are possible. Same thing I can do with customers. So I would have like a lot of customers here. So I can check which customers are happy, which customers are not happy. So you can see, okay, for this customer with City Power and Light, for example, my NPS is pretty high. And for, let's say, Litware, my NPS is actually 0. And okay, for one of the customer, my NPS is actually negative. So I can do all this analysis because my business data and my survey data are now connected. So I can create, for example, charts like this. So those things are possible only in Forms Pro and not in Forms. And Forms Pro also, because it's in Dynamics, CDS, it provides direct connection to Power BI. So what you need to do is you open Power BI, you just connect to CDS and just download the Forms Pro tables and create any chart that you want. Any questions on the analysis part, final analysis part?
I don't know if you'd know this or not, but does Power BI include any sort of, as far as statistics, multivariate analysis of some of the categories in the survey? Like, does it offer any sort of templates or I'm going to put quotes around the word AI, approaches to dealing with categorical responses? Because, you know, I saw that you're able to do it one by one, but usually the response is through some sort of clustering or just, you know, some other type of more complex model.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So, and you can do all that because what you need to do is that you just need to connect to the Forms Pro database, which is in Dynamics, and just pull the data in. And as you said, that Power BI has some inbuilt insights, so you can just those insights will automatically get run on these charts and these responses, and you can get all these insights for free. So full power of Power BI is there. And for example, Power BI also has features like natural language processing, right? So you can basically click on this and ask, okay, what if you want to ask these questions in natural language, you can go ahead and do that. It takes time to load for some reason, but yeah, you can see, right? So you can type the question that you want to ask from the data directly here. So full power of Power BI is available for you to play around with the survey response data.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, so you can pull it into Power BI desktop, and then there's a whole palette of visualizations that are available in Power BI, and there's a third-party component market as well for additional visualizations. So you could do cluster graphing, time series analysis, all kinds of different things.
All
And
of
you
it
could
is
also,
free as long as you're licensed to Power BI.
right,
Well,
right.
yeah, we're not paying $7.
But, yep, and geocoding too, that's another popular
Well,
way.
I can see those sorts of, you know, relationships and
Yeah,
having somebody savvy enough to kind of connect a lot of those dots in one area is its own sort of thing.
right.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Now, who invited the data scientist? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay, do everything.
always happy to have you.
If you, for example, have a Dynamics backend, then all these relationships are pre-created for you. But yeah, if you have like certain other system that you want to connect it, then yeah, maybe you have to do some little bit of data modeling to get the desired charts that you want.
Thank you.
I'm like at the peak of hour, so let me just quickly summarize that. That's what, as part of Forms Pro, that's what we are promising you, that it's very easy to create, send, and analyze surveys. And we provide seamless integration with your business data and business tools to help, and also work around in conjunction with these tools to help you create different reports that will eventually help you improve your business processes. Forms Pro is, as I said, that is already generally available in is already generally available worldwide. So just go to formspro.microsoft.com, create a trial account. So 30-day trial is free. Just go ahead and play around with it. There is a aka.ms/what is Forms Pro. So this will give you much more details on basically what are the different features of Form Pro. Also lead you to documentation, which has all the different features. So what I've shown is sort of a subset of features that is in Forms Pro, but there are much more. You can go and learn about it there, and you can always reach out to me. So that's the main purpose here. Play around with it, evangelize it. Any question or anything that you see here or any feature that you find is missing, I'm always here to collect your feedback or to support you in whatever way I can to help you adopt to the to Forms Pro.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.